Introduce a friend to sumo tomorrow, and they'll probably fall in love with Fujinokawa. Not just because of that body yaddy yaddy, but because watching a little guy knock down a big guy is just as fun in an arena as it was on the playground, and almost no combat sports have that on offer. Boxing, MMA, Muay Thai, they all have weight classes, but not sumo, and the sport is consistently better for it. But what makes a size mismatch in sumo? Like, what is the ideal body in sumo? What makes someone a kaiju level freak? And what makes an upset contender? Well, it sounds like an opportunity to stretch my data goblin wings and take a look at some scatter plots. So, I pulled the heights and weights of every rikishi in the top 3 divisions from January 2026 to get an idea of what the mean and median body types are in sumo. Predictably, we get some different results depending on the division. Makushita gives us the biggest and best cluster results with the fewest outliers, or at least the most consistent ones. Makushita is low-key my favorite division, and there's something magnetic about young guys fighting desperately to break through into the top division and established veterans trying to bounce back up to the Sekitori salaried ranks. The competition is fierce and feels to me like the first truly fully professional division of sumo's 6-tier pyramid, even though it's not one of the 2 paid divisions, Juryo and Makuuchi, at the top. So, turns out the average height for a Makushita rikishi is about 180 centimeters, or about 5'10", 5'11", and the average weight is about 143 or 144 kilograms, or about 315 pounds. However, Makushita is where most rikishi, even decorated amateur recruits' careers end, and if we take a look at the average height and weight of the Sekitori ranks, we can maybe see why. The average size of a Sekitori rikishi, Juryo or Makuuchi, jumps all the way up to 184.5 centimeters and 160 kilograms. So that's like 6 foot, 6'1", and a colossal 350 pounds. And then they have outliers as tall as 195 centimeters, so that's like 6'4", 6'5", and as heavy as 206 kilos or 450 pounds. However, what's more interesting to me isn't the outliers at the top, but the outliers on the low end. In a recent sumo food video, Nobehara, who just won the January Mokushita Yusho over Enho, talked to the interviewer about how 150 kilograms appears to be the magic number for make weight into the Sekitori. He was paining over losing 1 or 2 kilos overnight while he slept, and how hard it was for him to hit and stay at that 150. What I think is interesting is he fought January at 150, and sure enough, he won the division. This makes it even more interesting to me to see guys like Fujinokawa and his 122 kilograms, or Asakoryu and his 123 kilograms banging bodies in the top division, fully 25 kilos lower than the ideal weight, and 35 kilos lower than the Sekitori average. But this is all numbers soup, and what I'd really like to do is figure out some clean heuristics or rules of thumb for me to use when I'm watching rikishi on the come-up and in the top division. So, what does our average rikishi look like? If we combine all 3 divisions, they're a little over 180 centimeters tall and a little under 150 kilos. Basically, they're Meisei. And if we limit that to just the Sekitori, just the top 2 divisions, the salaried ranks, we get Nishiki Fuji, 4 centimeters taller, 10 kilos heavier. So that's our baseline, that's our average. Now what about the interesting ones? I want heuristics for the 4 kind of outliers I'm affectionately calling mountains, boulders, trees, and bricks. Trees are taller than the average, but probably still similar or even a little lighter than the average Sekitori. Is height a determining factor to outperforming your salaried colleagues? Well, I suspect not, at least not on its own if we use Hatsuyama as our example. He made his Makuuchi debut in January, and at 194 centimeters, he was immediately the 2nd tallest rikishi in the division, but at 144 kilos, it seems like he didn't have nearly enough weight to compete and wound up with double-digit losses as guys were able to get up and under his tall frame that didn't have any weight for stability and ballast. So what about weight alone? Well, here's where we get my next taxonomical classification, the boulders, among the shortest but heaviest rikishi in the division. Takakeisho is of course the gold standard here, but our current examples are Kaio, who got brutally bounced out of Makuuchi in 2025 and in January managed to stabilize in Juryo, or perhaps Gonoyama, who has finally bounced back a little in January but still only managed 6 and 9. So it seems there is a limit to how much value versus hindrance weight can be as you sacrifice your mobility for that extra power or concussive force in the tachiai. So of course, a much more likely indicator of success is having that superior frame and also hanging weight on it. Onosato is of course the gold standard here at 192 centimeters and 188 kilos, but also Atami Fuji's 187 centimeters and 195 kilos and Asanoyama's 188 and 170. Those are your mountains. But what is of course more impressive, at least to me, are the bricks. I chose natural terms for our first three taxonomical classifications, mountains, trees, boulders, because to some extent height and weight are something that happens naturally to you. Are you able to gain weight? Were you blessed with height at birth? Even weight, which you can't control, and rikishi do try to control with food training, force feeding to gain weight. It has to do with your natural metabolism, but these last guys, these are the built traits. These are sort of human-made physiques. The likes of Asakoryu's Adonis flex and Fujinokawa's explosive calf power. These guys, despite their short stature, have managed to pack on dense muscle and force their way into the conversation in the top division. They're rare, of course. Even shorter rikishi like Ura and Tobizaru have chosen to, or been able to, add weight and move toward the boulder classification. But what's most impressive is these January records from our fit fat muscle men. But this diversity of form is almost as interesting to me as the diversity of styles in the top division. So while a place like Makushita settles into a more best-case scenario situation, it's interesting to me when these outliers can break through. Whether that's some sort of rising Sequoia or a regular Joe type, the open weight class competition of sumo means anyone can break through no matter what our stock average rikishi is supposed to look like. So, here's hoping your next favorite rikishi is right around the corner no matter what they look like. Thanks for watching, everybody. Talk to you next time.